Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rucha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. This is your brother Quan Lawat with the Great Millstone Charlotte Camp, come with a quick lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. And this afternoon, I just want to touch on, the plagues of Egypt, man, right? We know in this being spiritual Egypt, spiritual Babylon, right? Assyria, Nineveh, right? All these places, but the focus on Egypt, right? The plagues of Egypt are befalling this place, man, right? And the Lord is using it, to uproot and destroy the foundation, as we'll read here in Second Esdras 15, right? And that's how you can make those parallels, man. That's how we know where we're at, especially in prophecy, man, right? As that kingdom was brought to his knees, right, through these plagues, we're watching America, right, and the Edomite hegemony infrastructure, right, being brought to his knees by these plagues as well, man, right? Now just starting here, 2nd Esdras 15, and we're starting 11. It reads, "But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof." Right now, I'm gonna bring out a couple of videos going into, right, coming famines, right, the ecological disaster that's being caused by these data centers, right, and all these things are causing those plagues, man. They're a part of the plagues, right? As well as the pestilences, right? But we'll get into those at a later time. Verse 12, it says, "Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with plague, and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it." So just keep in mind, right? All these things are the punishment of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai coming upon the earth, man. Right? The scriptures tell you, right? They actually, I think it's further down. Let's see. It might be 16. But the point being, that the Lord has stretched out his arm upon Babylon the Great, man, right? To punish those, right, who took his children, right? And to punish 2/3 as well, man, But let me get this video, right? Because this is going into, the coming famines, man, right? And then we'll get another one in regards to the data centers.
Great news for those of us with historical knowledge. USDA projects that American farmers are going to harvest the fewest wheat acres in almost 150 years. Yes, a century and a half. Now, as a weather nerd, I know exactly what happened in 1877. 1877 featured the most intense El Nino we had ever recorded, and it is the closest analog to what we are going to be experiencing over the next 2-ish years today. Somewhere between 30 and 60 million people died during the ensuing famines, which was about 5% of the world's population at the time. 5% of the global population today would be well over 400 million people. Put it another way, that would be the entire US. One of the researchers of the paper that I shared said that the famine was arguably the worst environmental disaster to ever befall humanity. I will say scientists have some disagreement over what caused the poor drought harvest in particular. It seemed to just be everything. The North Atlantic Ocean was exceptionally warm that year, and it was the warmest year it had ever had. The Indian Ocean was also very warm, and you had the El Nino. And the Pacific was really cool as well. Now, how are global ocean temperatures doing right now? Well, I think the State Department announcing yesterday duty-free importation of phosphate fertilizer from Morocco tells you what you need to know about how much fertilizer has been cut off by the crisis with Iran. And by crisis, I mean the American war of aggression that's induced a crisis. A lot of the world's fertilizer comes through there. So does this necessarily mean we're barreling toward a famine? No, of course not. That can be avoided, but the signs are absolutely there. And that should give you some context as to why your food prices over the next 2 to 3 years are going to nuke out. And you know what? The corporate profits always come first. profits of the food conglomerate that uses child labor and the profits of the grocery store chain that price gouges the fuck out of the food to you matter much more than the availability of the food. And that, my friends, is capitalism.
Right. So this is what we're seeing, man. Right. That's a plague that's coming upon Babylon the Great through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, man. Right. The Lord is sending these weather conditions, man. Right. Though Esau may be using his harp and things of that nature, the Lord gave him that power. Right. You know, we don't give that that credit to Esau either, man. Right. This is all the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai working in the earth. Right. Now let's go here. Right, because he made mention of how the food is going to be exorbitantly, more expensive, man. Right? Now, what does it say in Revelation? I think it's 4. Salakia 6 and 6. This is Revelation chapter 6 and verse 6. It reads, "And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." Right? But that's going into your day's wages, right? Being needed to pretty much buy a loaf of bread, man. Right? To be able to pay for your daily bread, right? It's going to take a whole day's work, man. And that's what we're seeing coming with the hyperinflation, man. Right? They're orchestrating this famine, right? Now, when we get into this video in regards to the data centers, it'll tie some more things together, right? But let me get this here in Matthew, because these are all the signs of the end, man. Right? 24. This is Matthew 24 and verse 7. Let's start in. Let's start in 4. Matthew 24 and 4. "And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you." Right? So we see all manners of deception, right, being laid out before us, man. Right? So it's imperative that you take heed to these messages that you see coming from the men of the Lord, man. Right? Coming from the prophets, to prepare yourself, man. Because what the scriptures tell you, right? The Lord's servants are going to eat. The Lord's servants are going to drink, right? But this famine is going to touch everybody else, man, right? And we're even going to be, touched in a degree, right? But that's where faith comes in, man, right? Verse 5, "For many shall come in my name, saying, I'm Hamashiach, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars," right? What are we seeing? World War III on the horizon, right? What people don't understand is war is can be likened to a pestilence, man, right? Because it destroys the lands. It destroys the people, right? It destroys the minds of the people, right? It destroys the resources that they have to use up in order to go fight these battles, man, right? So that's a plague in itself, right? And Esau is the plague of the earth, right? What does it say? That red horse, right? That went to take peace from the earth, man, right? And he's that sword that the Lord is using to judge, judge the earth, man, to judge all the wickedness that you see being perpetrated, man. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places, right? So this is where the famine that we're about to see take place, man, right? Like the guy said, the greatest, what do you say? Let me go back to it, right?
the worst environmental disaster to ever befall humanity.
The worst ecological disaster to befall humanity, man. Right? This is what the Lord is preparing for Babylon the Great in particular. You know? Let's get one more. We'll jump up here. Let's go back to that second Ezra 15. Second Ezra 15. We'll just start at 1. It says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness, right? So all unbelievers are going to perish, man, right? For their unbelief. That's why it says, right, don't let the incredulity, the unbelief, the lack of faith, trouble you, man, right? They're sealed, right? Their fates are sealed, man, right? You have to focus on your house. It says, Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the earth, upon the whole world, rather, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and her hurtful works are fulfilled, right? So the sword, famine, right? Famine is a big deal, right? And the Lord used famine, right, as a sifting mechanism, right, in ancient times, man, right? You read through Ezekiel, you read through Jeremiah, right? Lamentations. Let's actually get that. Lamentations, 4th chapter. Right? And then we'll get that other video. Because all these things are leading to famines, man. Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 9. It says, They that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. For these pine away, stricken through for want of the fruits of the field. Right? So those who, because the sword is a quick death, man, right? The sword is, or the famine rather, right, is a slow, painful death. And that's what the Lord is preparing for Babylon the Great, right? It's a slow, agonizing, torturous death, man, right? And it's well deserved, for the wickedness that they've pushed throughout the earth, man, right? For the bloodshed of the tribes, right? For pushing, the Lord's people and the people of the whole world into Satanism, right? Into these mode lifestyles, man. Turning away from Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, right? It's only right that they find themselves in the most torturous deaths, imaginable, man, right? Let's go here, and then we'll get the video. Ezekiel. It's Ezekiel 5. Let's see. Yep, this is Ezekiel 5 and 11, right? So let me see. The whole chapter is good, but we'll start in 11. It's Ezekiel 5 and 11. Wherefore, as I live, saith the Lord power, surely because thou hast defiled my sanctuary with all thy detestable things, and with all thine abominations, all thine abominations. Right now, this is speaking on Jake in that time, right? But now we're seeing this same judgment is going to befall Esau, Edom, man. Right? The rulers, the leaders of of Israel were going off, right? So the Lord was punishing them, but now Esau finds himself right in that leadership seat, so he's going to be held accountable for everything that's taking place, man, for all the abominations, right? It says, therefore will I diminish thee, neither shall mine eyes spare, neither will I have any pity, right? So 2/3 Esau, all these heathen that find themselves in Babylon the Great, right, are going to receive no pity, man. A third part of these shall die with the pestilence, and with famine shall they be consumed in the midst of thee. And a third part shall fall by the sword round about thee. And I will scatter a third part into all the winds, and I will draw out a sword after them. Thus shall mine anger be accomplished, and I will cause my fury to rest upon them, and I will be comforted. Right? So this is the Lord accomplishing his will, man. Right? He's going to find comfort and solace, right, and bringing great death to this place, man, right? You know, that's why it's going to be what the guy say, right? The greatest, calamity in human history, man, right? And all the conditions as he laid out, right? What's it called? Point to that direction, right? It says, and they shall know that I, the Lord, have spoken it in my zeal, when I have accomplished my fury in them. It says, moreover, I will make thee waste, a reproach among the nations that are round about thee, in the sight of all that pass by. Right? So that happened to our people, right? We were made a reproach, but now Babylon the Great is going to be made that reproach, man. Right? They're going to be made that example. They're going to be made that that laughing stock, right? You read in what is it, Nahum? Let me see. I think it's in Nahum, 3rd chapter, where it talks about. Let me pull it up on here. Let me see. Yep, Nahum 3:6. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. Right. So America is going to be made that laughing stock in the earth, man. And we're already seeing it take place, with them losing this war in Iran, right? With the nations seeing how this president really carries himself, right? Seeing the leadership failing, right? It's a laughing stock, right? And the famine is just going to add to that, man. Right? Finishing this out. It says, verse 15, Ezekiel 5:15. So it shall be a reproach and a taunt, an instruction and an astonishment unto the nations that are round about thee, when I shall execute judgments in thee, in anger and in fury, and in furious rebukes. I, the Lord, have spoken it. So what we read in 2nd Ezra 15-16, right? These are what the Lord executing judgment, man, right? The Lord's anger and fury and furious rebukes, right? That rebuke started with the spirit of the prophets that he sent in the earth, right? To chat down this Mount Seir, right? And it's continuing through the plagues that he's setting upon the place, man, right? Verse 16, when I shall send upon them evil arrows of famine, the evil arrows of famine, which shall be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you, I will increase the famine upon you, and will break your staff of bread. So will I send upon you famine and evil beasts, and they shall bereave thee, and pestilence and blood shall pass through thee, and I will bring the sword upon thee. I, the Lord, have spoken it, right? So this great famine, right, is being prepared by Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, man, right? Now I wanted to play this other video, right?
Did you guys hear about the other problem that data centers pose? Apart from the fact that, yes, they use a ton of water, they use a ton of electricity, they're going to be used to, well, what is a data center for? It's going to be for the implementation of AI everywhere and all the flock cameras and this whole thing about, being surveilled and whatnot. Those are just some of the issues. Here's a new issue that data centers cause that many people are shocked about. So while many people are complaining about the fact that if you live near a data center, you're going to be hearing a constant low frequency hum and broadband noise due to the massive cooling fans, air chillers, and on-site power generators. And while this does disrupt, your sleep quality, and this is what people are reporting, it's like annoying to be near these things, but it doesn't.
And just to add real quick, right, this is a part of that languishing, man, right? Adding to the noise pollution, right? Adding to the unease, right, that the people feel, right? You're constantly being poisoned, man, right?
That sound doesn't just affect humans. Turns out, low frequency hums and high decibel roars from power plants, this is not necessarily data centers, but they're going to make similar noises, stresses farm animals. It can actually disrupt milk production, breeding habits, and general animal welfare. And the infrasound effect is that it will travel basically through the ground. It says inaudible low frequency energy, vibrational energy travels easily through the ground and structures, creating an unsettling continuous rumble felt by animals and humans alike. But then this study by Cal.
And to add to that point, right, the stressing the animals is poisoning the meat, man. Because now there's cortisol, flowing throughout all the cows, the chickens, the goats, right? Whatever meat you may eat, right? All that meat is going to be full of those stress chemicals on top of the antibiotics, on top of the terrible diets that they have, man, right? So that's them again, just continuing to poison the food supply, man, right? Which is through what's called biomagnification, right? Those poisons make their way up the food chain, man, right? So into the people. Right, and that's why the people are full of these stress chemicals, man. Right, that's why the people are full of these parasites and fertilizers and things of that nature, man. Right, all these chemicals are coming through the food, right? And again, these data centers are adding to, right, destroying the quality of life for the people as well as the animals, man. Right.
Poly did a 12-year experiment, and they basically found that industrial compressors disrupt plant seedlings and production. So look, 75% fewer seedlings. Areas exposed to loud, continuous industrial noise had a 75% reduction in pinon pine seedlings compared to quiet sites, scaring off planters. The continuous noise did not directly hurt the plant tissue itself. Instead, it frightened away vital wildlife, specifically birds like the woodhouse scrub jay, which bury thousands of pine seeds, avoided the noisy areas entirely. So this could not just disrupt humans and animals, but also possibly plants. Again, this was about air compressors and industrial sounds, not necessarily data centers, but you can imagine they're both freaking loud. And that's crazy because I just found out stressed plants emit ultrasonic pops that we can't hear, but they can be caught by certain technologies, revealing a noisy cry for help, the loudest when they're dehydrated. So plants actually make noises. This plant I have here, it's not thirsty.
Hey, what the scriptures tell you, man, the trees, right? Let's get that real quick, and then we'll finish that out. I might be spelling it wrong. The cedars of Lebanon, right? Goodness. All right, there we go. This is Isaiah 14:8. It reads, "Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, Since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us." Right? Right. Let's start up a little bit. Isaiah 14:4. Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, How art the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord had broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers, right? So the Lord is using these famines, right? Because Esau thinks he got one up, right? Because he's the staff of the Lord's indignation, right? But the Lord is using his pride against him, right? The scriptures tell you he setteth up kings and he taketh down kings, man. He also set up Pharaoh in the power seat so that he could show his power, man. Roughly paraphrasing. Verse 5, the Lord had broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. And that these data centers, that's just adding to that continual stroke, man. Right, as I made mention of, right, just constantly being poisoned, being constantly under attack. It says, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. The point, just adding to that point of the frequencies coming from the plants. It says, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us, right? So as he brought out, right, the plants are crying out as well, man, right? As we cry out, the earth itself is in mourning, man, right? Because of this man.
But if it was, it would be crying right now in a weird frequency way. So let me know your thoughts. How come it's all about saving the climate, but all of a sudden we're allowed and it's all chill and good to put up a bajillion data centers that use a bajillion gallons of water and use up a ton of energy?
But the point I wanted to get,
House
right,
scrub jay, which bury thousands of pine seeds.
Brought out here, right, 75% fewer seedlings, scaring off planters, long-term ecological harm, man. Right, so this is what this man is doing. This is the result, right, of these data centers. Pumping that noise pollution, not to mention the water being polluted, right? All these things, again, going back to the plagues of Egypt, man, right? And so I searched this up on, got this out the Google AI overview, right? Just talking about the plagues of Egypt and the famine, right? It says the impact on the, let's just start from the top. It says during the biblical narrative of Exodus, a severe ecological famine rapidly developed because successive plagues systematically dismantled Egypt's food supply, agriculture, livestock, and water infrastructure. What's happening right now, man? All the water is being used up, right? Whether it's being taken in the bunkers or being used to cool off data centers, right? It's being taken, right? Right? The food supplies, we played the video, right? The wheat, right? And that's going into all the agriculture, man, right? The livestock, again, being affected by these data centers, man, right? Right? The quality of life for the animals, right? All these things are being impacted. It says water and fish. The first plague turned the Nile to blood, killing all fish and stripping away a primary source of protein and irrigation. Livestock, the fifth plague brought a severe pestilence that killed off horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, and sheep, destroying both food and labor resources. The seventh plague unleashed destructive fiery hail that shattered trees and flattened flax and barley harvests, right? So the losing access to that harvest, right? And that fire, you can equate that to the temperatures that's going on in Babylon the Great right now, man, right? Brothers have been speaking on, right? We're in the midst of a heat wave that we haven't seen in years, man, right? It says remaining vegetation, the eighth plague brought massive swarms of locusts that devoured every remaining green thing and fruit left in the fields. And like the guy brought out, these data centers using that noise pollution are scaring off the animals that were otherwise, right, assisting planting the trees, right, assisting pollinating the plants, right? You see the frequencies that they push, cause there to be no more bees and things of that nature, man. Right, so all the ways of the agriculture growing itself, right, are being affected by this technocracy, man, right? So let's get this and we'll close with this. Because the point being, again, man, the plagues of Egypt are coming as before, right? As we read, jumping down. Actually, it's like it. Back in that Sirach, or second Esdras rather, 15. Right, 15 and 11. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it, man. So Yahweh Shem Shai is bringing plagues upon Babylon the Great, right? And he's using Esau to do it. He's causing the what's the word? The weather patterns, right? To do it, right? It's the Lord's power, man, right? He's sending these things, right, as judgment upon the earth, right? Chiefly toward Babylon the Great, right? Which again is going to bring forth that hyperinflation, right? It's going to bring forth those famines, right? It's going to force people into a position where they feel like they need to take the mark of the beast, right, in order to survive, right? So going back, when you read that verse, causeth, right? That causeth, though it does go into, right, him constituting these things and making it law, it also goes into him doing anything in his means, right, to force people to in a position to take this device, man, right? And the famine is going to be another part of that, man, right? Let's get this, and then we can close. This is Ezekiel 7. We'll start in 12. Ezekiel 7 and verse 12. It reads, "The time has come, the day draweth near," right? You know, we're approaching very quickly, right, to these times reaching their climax, man. "Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller mourn, for wrath is upon all the multitude thereof." So this whole country is about to feel it, man, right? Everybody's going to feel it. It's called Jacob's trouble for a reason as well, because, you know, we're going to be in the midst of it, man, right? And it's going to take extreme faith, right, in order to be delivered out, you know? And we see the masses, you know, speaking to you Negro, Latinos, Native Americans, right, Hispanics, right, you Israelite foreigners out there, right? All you, you know, have stored up treasures on earth, man, right? Well, we're attempting to store up these treasures in heaven for this time to come, right? It says, "The time has come, the day draweth near. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller mourn, for wrath is upon all the multitude thereof. For the seller shall not return to that which is sold, although they were yet alive. For the vision is touching the whole multitude thereof." The vision is touching the whole multitude, man. "Therefore, which shall not return, neither shall any strengthen himself in the iniquity of his life," right? So all the things that you've worked for, right, as Solomon says, is vanity, man, right? They no longer hold value. They no longer have strength. "They have blown the trumpet, even to make all ready, but none goeth to the battle. For my wrath is upon all the multitude thereof," right? And again, that's the plagues coming upon this place, man, right? Again, going back to the point of the war, right? That's a plague, right? Your sons and daughters getting drafted. That's a plague. You can liken that to a pestilence, man, because they're going to die, right? The Lord is bringing great death and destruction to this place, man, right? That's why it says lamentations, mournings, and woes, man, right? That's what's on the table for Babylon the Great, man. That's what's on the table for America. "The sword is without, and the pestilence, and the famine within," right? "He that is in the field shall die with the sword, and he that is in the city, famine and pestilence shall devour him," man. So that's what we see coming, man, right? Those who have managed to escape, right? Like it says, when you're in the field, you're going to die of the sword, man, right? You getting sent off to war, right? You finding yourself dying in the civil war that's taking place, man. You finding yourself dying in the sedition, right? That's coming to America, Babylon the Great, man, right? But those within the city, right, where resources are going to be scarce, as we went into the videos, right? That famine is going to, have people in the chokehold, man, right? And like it says, the pestilence shall devour him, man, right? So without Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, you're going to fall victim, right, to these plagues, to the pestilence, the plagues of Egypt, man, right? As they came before, right, they come again, right? There's nothing new under the sun, as the scriptures tell us, man. So Lord willing, that was edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. I want to close by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai B'Hashem, Recha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom, Kwam Yasharallah, and abide with all. Shalom.